The action on Wall Street overnight and James Buller's comments, 100 basis points of hikes by July, which means probably 50 by March. So starting heavy there. I mean, markets are pricing in at least a 2 and 3 chance of that happening. Are you?
Well, I think yesterday's market action showed that with the 2-year yield selling off with almost 20 basis points in one day, I think one of the biggest moves we've seen in this cycle, the conviction over at least 6 rate hikes is pretty much 100%. I think it's a little bit difficult for the Federal Reserve to do perhaps a 50 basis points straight away, simply because they're still running down the balance sheet as we speak. But the good news perhaps for the Federal Reserve is that the move or the shift upwards in the US yield curve is actually doing some of the work of cooling down the economy. And this was the problem really from last year when, if you remember, the 10-year Treasury was down at 1.5%. Actually, it was incredibly stimulative for the US economy. So finally, the yield curve is doing some of the work for the Federal Reserve ahead of any of the rate hikes. But bottom line is at least 5, probably 6. I think the Federal Reserve won't go for a 50. I think it's too much perhaps for markets at this stage of the cycle.
Sean, it was interesting. Mark Mahaney over at Evercore ISI said Meta is likely to be dead money in the short term. This is coming from a tech analyst who recently put Meta in the penalty box. When you throw in discounted future earnings because of this pressure from yields and the fundamental valuation repricing that is going on, how on earth do we approach the growth end of the market?
Well, that's a very good question because if you look at the 2-year to 30-year part of the yield curve, I mean, it's plunging at the moment. It's almost going into a sort of recessionary level. So generally, global investors will be looking very carefully at the FANG plus Microsoft as a sort of benchmark for owning stocks 12 months from here. The irony now is that, unfortunately, members of that club have found it very difficult to keep up with with their peers, and notably, we've seen subscription levels at Netflix, the pressures on Meta from its also problems. So what I think is going to happen is that you're going to get a split within the FANG plus M, and essentially those companies like Amazon, Microsoft with very large cloud businesses will actually separate away from the benchmark. And I think we'll see that as we come further and further into this tightening cycle. So sometime by about third quarter, the dispersion between the constituents of the FANG plus M are going to be very, very wide. But yes, very good point. I think we're going to see a very different cycle in the stocks that people buy looking at the 30-year Treasury yield today.
Hi, I'm Emily Tan, and thanks for watching CNBC. You can check out more of our videos by clicking on the boxes on the screen, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks for watching.